In order to get behind the scenes and make some customization changes to your site, you need to log into it. And when you registered your site, they would have given you uh, a login URL that you could use. But once you've been logging in for a while, there's a standard one that is basically the name of your site, which in our case is thesockeyes.wordpress.com, and WP admin. And then it brings up this login screen. You put in your username, which in our case is the Sockeyes, and I've already been in here, so the password's already filling in for me, but you would type in your password and then log in. Okay, so here we are behind the scenes at the Sockeyes site. What a lot of stuff there is to look at, and some of these things can be changed, but I'm just going to go over a few of these with you right now. But this main area, this dashboard, shows some of the things that you might want to use. Here's recent comments. If people have left comments, you can see things. There's all sorts of things to look at here, including stats, which is actually very interesting. You can go and have a look at how many pages are being hit each day and what your activity is like. As you can see, we've been getting lots of activity. In other words, zero, but of course this site is really just a play site. There's other things here. If you don't want to see stuff, they bring up some things that you can look at. You can just click on the little tab and it gets rid of it. There's this area I just closed down. Over on the left-hand side are a number of different items, and there are a few of these that you'll use more often than others. Under this area for the dashboard, looking at your site stats is one that you might want to look at more often. So you could click on that and it actually takes you to a page that gives you a bit more detailed information. Now, again, we haven't really been doing much with this site, but it does tell you that there were 6 views today and that the About page got looked at once. So it gives you a sense of who's looking at it, the types of search engine terms people have used to come to your site, and who's referred your site. Maybe you've got a link on another site somewhere and to your own site, and you can tell that people have actually seen your site listed there and clicked on it and come to your site here. Okay, so that's the dashboard section. And the couple of other areas that we'd use here are the posts. This is where you'd actually go in to create a new blog post. And in this case, you'd click Add New, and you could start from scratch. We'll do one of those a little bit later. But if you just clicked on the posts, it pulls up a page over here that shows you the different posts that you've actually done. And in this case, we've just got that default one that they did called Hello World. So that's the only thing that's sitting there at the moment. Now, I mentioned earlier that posts and pages were very similar. So here are the pages. If you click on pages, again, if you wanted to add a new page, you'd go Add New, which we'll do in a little bit. But first, let's just have a look at the pages. And again, here's a list of the pages that exist. And you've got one called About, which we looked at earlier. If you wanted to edit that, I just click on Edit. And then the page comes up. And you could actually, there's called About, here's the address, and there's basically kind of like a text editor that you can use to put text in. So I could actually type anything I wanted here. And we'll come back and actually do that shortly. Going down a little bit further, I wanted to point out themes. And themes are sort of a foundation of WordPress. There are a lot of themes out there. Click on that, and WordPress comes with these are all free themes, and if you're just having your site hosted on WordPress, it's not basically on your own server, then you're limited somewhat to the themes that you can use, but there are still a lot of themes. And one of the cool things there are different kinds of themes to use depending on the type of site that you've got. For instance, if you're a photographer, you might want to use something that's more like a photo blogging theme, and they're set up just differently. So you can actually go through these and you can activate them, and you'll see how things look different on your own blog. So I'm going to just show you right now what would happen if we changed a theme. But before I do that, I'm going to go up to where the name of the site is here, called the Sockeyes, and I'm just going to control click on it. Now I am using a Mac here and I'm running with Safari, but this works on most browsers, so I'm going to control click on the name, and I'm going to ask to open this link in a new tab. You could open it just in a new browser window if you like. And you'll notice that I've got another tab here, and here we are back at the kind of like the outside of your site. This is what the world sees, and this is all the workings of it in behind. And I do that so that you can flip back and forth and see changes that are made. So have a look at this site. This is the default that's there, and I'm going to just activate a different theme just to see what it does. So let's just, I think I'll just pick this one here. It's called Vostok. I haven't ever tried this, but we'll just have a look at it. So I've now activated this theme, and if I want to go see what that looks like, I'm just going to open the site again in a new window, and it's over here. So here it is. Here's essentially the same information, but delivered in a much different way. And the photograph is gone. Let's go compare here. Here's the one that was there versus this one. But all this content is the same. Here's that blog post that's back here, Hello World. All these things here, these widgets on the side right panel, are displayed differently in this other theme. They go down this way. So you could play around with different themes, and it's kind of fun to do when you're first starting out your site to see kind of what works well with what you've got. It might be a good idea to build a few pages and have a couple of posts before you actually do it so that you can get a better sense of how they look. But we're going to go back to the original default theme that WordPress comes with, which, by the way, is actually quite a good theme. I can go to my Manage Themes page here and go 2010, do a little search, and here it is here. So I'm going to activate that, and we should be back to our original theme. So there we are. I'm going to close the other one. Okay, so back to the back end. Those are themes, and you can certainly spend some time playing with those. I mentioned before the little side items, which are called widgets. And I think we should make a change to that right now. So over on the sidebar of this particular page are a list of the widgets that are being used. And these correspond. You notice we've got search, recent posts, archives, categories, and meta. Those, if we go out to the front end of the site, all match this information here. But let's say we want to move one of those. We don't want to have that meta tag or meta widget there. So all you do is just drag it out of there. And we go back to here. We'll notice, oops, it's still there. But we have to remember to refresh the page because we've gone back out. And voila, it's gone. So you can do that with a lot of different widgets. You can move things in and out, and there are other types of things that you can put in there. You can put in image widgets. You can have, if you have a Flickr account, you can actually have Flickr, some of your images from Flickr show up in your right sidebar, all kinds of things, which we can't really get into right now. It's a bit too in-depth for this particular tutorial. All right, lastly on this page, I want to go down to Settings, and in Settings, under General, pulls up a new page here. This definitely is one of the first things that you want to do when you get your new site and you get in behind, is get into the General Settings section and go in and fix a few things. Now remember, if we go have a look at our site as it is to the world, this sockeyes is all just basically your username and it's all one line. Well, we don't want that. We want to change that. So this is where you'd go in and just change it to that. And then also the tagline, which is currently just another WordPress.com site, we don't want that. We actually want it to say what our subline is of our organization. And in our case, I'm going to use Songs of the West Coast. Okay. This is the email address that you use for when there's updates. You want to go in and make sure that you change the time zone. You can either use this, the universal stuff, wherever you are in the world, or if you actually scroll up a ways, it's got the different continents, and you can usually find most, like the closest major city. So if I go up into here we are. I happen to be in Vancouver, so there's a North American one, and that'll make sure that when you post things to the site, it's basically posting at the time zone that you're in. You can change the date format, the time format, and so on. And once you've done that, you want to click Save Changes. And if we go back out again to the front end of the site, nothing's changed, because you have to remember every time you come back out you have to refresh the page. So I'm going to just refresh, and there we go. So we've got the sock eyes, the subline has changed, and it's looking a little bit better. But the next thing that we need to do is actually change the header. This top area of the screen of your window is actually called the header. So that's what we'll do next.